Wouldst thou like to live deliciously? Chaos reigns.
Please don't scream.
Nah, Sid, don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
What's happening? My name is Jonjo Lyons, and today I'm here to present to you my revisiting of Subconscious Cruelty. Written and directed by Karim Hussein, Subconscious Cruelty stars all of these lot. An anthology of horror consisting of 4 segments, all themed around gory subjects. Well, we did it, folks. We made it to a subscriber goal that I've been looking forward to for the last 4 years. 20,000 subscribers. Can you believe it? I can't. It's been a lot of hard work, a lot of jokes, a lot of sleepless nights, meticulously applying the face of the world's greatest actor to scenes of the strongest bloody violence humanity has ever witnessed, and yeah, it's been pretty fun. For those of you that jumped on board and have continued to support my stupid for so long, I cannot thank you enough. You, and especially the patrons, have genuinely changed my life forever, at the very least keeping me in this room editing constantly and away from the general public. To be fair, I think they owe you a debt of gratitude as well. Also, I'm taking down this hood immediately. Too hot. Anyway, if you go to the beginning of the channel to the first available video back in the ginger hair and days, you'll find a review for the cheeky little art house gem Subconscious Cruelty. Well, seeing as we've reached this goal, and I assume the original video isn't very good, seeing as it's only like 8 minutes long, I've decided to revisit this art house monstrosity and give it the modern day Jonjo treatment. And in case you're looking at me and thinking, Jonjo, why the f are you wearing a Batman onesie? It's because I wore it in the original video. It's hot, itchy, and uncomfortable. Just like your mum's snatch. Am I too desensitized to be shocked by it this time round? Will my original opinion of it change? Will I be able to understand a single thing that happens? Let's find out. But before we get into all of that, I just want to remind you, you can see this video completely uncut and early at patreon.com/JonjoLyons for as little as $2 a month. That's it. Want to see the videos uncut and gain access to the Discord? Go over there now. But more importantly, I'm currently crowdfunding my directorial debut short horror film, Better Anything. Better Anything is a super upsetting short film that starts off horrible and just gets worse. For more details on the story, or to meet the super talented Abigail Hardingham, who will be playing our lead Alice, head over to the pitch video on the channel or the Indiegogo page, which I'll link in the top comment and description. At time of filming, we currently have 73% of the budget covered, and I just can't believe it. Thank you so much, everybody who's donated so far. As we reach this final stretch, I just want to stress to you that any donation, big or small, is super appreciated. Just whatever you can do to make sure we get over that finish line. And anything that we get over the target is going to be dedicated to making sure we get those gore effects as horrible as possible. I want to see the knife go in, the flappy skin, the exposed teeth. I want to see it all. So yeah, like I say, the Indiegogo page, check it out. Thank you so much. But anyway, I'm in the mood to go back to the very beginning, so let's not waste any more time. Get ready to see the reason I still do this bullshit. This is Subconscious Cruelty. The movie begins with shots of a city as in voiceover a woman talks some bollocks about reality killing our dreams and how we escape it by using cinema.
Certain films can attempt to absorb our negative energy in a hope that perhaps they can keep our darkest emotions at bay.
Cut to the title card and into a bunch of chairs having a sex party. We pan over to a brain as we're told the human brain is split into 2 hemispheres, the right and the left. The right portion controls all intuitive, passionate and creative thought, while the left dominates the logical and rational. We then pass by a couple of open doors, down a hall and find a naked lady having a lie down. The right brain is the purest drug that breeds uninhibited feeling, dreams that can be seen. The naked lady then floats by us and we watch as the hand that was holding the brain starts to caress her face. She makes her way down, taking a quick dip in before placing a red cloth over the lady's face. She then picks up a scalpel and does the same thing. Oh no, I hope you're not about to take a dip with that. Destroy the left brain pops up and we see bugs covering it when the woman's hand cuts into the lady. The hand then reaches in and pulls out a eyeball as Destroy Your Lies pops up. Pardon me? Destroy my lies? How about you explain what the f*** going on here? That's not where eyes come from. You think you could gaslight me? Cut to our clearest angle of the lady's moose mouth with no hand and eyeball, then back to eye as we close in on its iris and are transported into the first story. Here we find this fella watching a pregnant woman sleep with the chub on so thick I'm surprised he has any blood left in his brain. He comments on how calmly she sleeps, her bloated midsection rising and falling with every breath a certain feat of accomplishment. He says he knows what she's thinking about her future and the baby inside her.
Her dreams are probably so boring. Not like mine.
The man lays down and comments on how beautiful the woman is, but how she never lets him touch her, making him keep his distance. And then we take a sharp left turn.
She laughs at me. I know it. Thinks I'm impotent. Thinks I could never do what her previous partners could.
We get some of that famous bisexual lighting as the man reaches out and he announces he knows what to do when the time comes. Cut to the man screaming as in voiceover he explains his life has become a nightmare, suffering from many visions of depravity and horror. We then see this. And what the f*** is that? His brain leaking out of his head? Why is there so much of this movie that I don't remember?
And he's watching this woman from his window as she makes love to various different men. We later find out that that's...
Ah, that's why. Because I skipped over huge chunks of the film that I either didn't want to talk about or couldn't explain. Fair. I remember when these videos were half the length and only came out once a month. He then says he actually loves this as it teaches him the truth of human nature, which fascinates him and scares him at the same time. We then cut back to the man continuing to stare at the sleeping woman and marvel at the little miracle taking place within her, saying he knows what the fetus feels. It feels irrelevant, it feels nothing. Ooh, samesies! He reckons it's his job to make the fetus feel, to see the truth of humanity, and that's what he's gonna do. But first we spin around the woman getting cracked open by this fella as the man watches, unable to understand their emotions for each other.
I became completely obsessed from afar with the architecture of the human sex organ, the way they were built with their odd curves and lips, perfectly designed by an unknown god for total symmetry and creation.
I don't know about that, mate. I think whoever designed genitals really dropped the ball there, especially with mine. Why the f*** is it bright green? And don't even get me started on the smell. It's like if human could vomit. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. He calls the act fascinating, especially when mixing the pleasure with pain. Cut to the man still trying to understand as he sits in the dark staring and knocking one out. This goes on for a bit as he watches them smash into each other and we cut to him looking at his hand. And the description of him doing this really made me laugh.
I would stare in awe at the slowly coagulating secretion within my palm. I could be the ultimate creator. I held the key within my body, the true seed that is the genesis of all creation.
Yeah, alright, we get it. You know words. Bully for you. He then reaches up to the light as we cut to him lying down, having decided to cause the ultimate pain and horror to the woman's creation, to mutilate creation itself. He just has to wait for the right time, the right circumstances, and wouldn't you know it, that time is now. It's then revealed the pregnant woman is his sister as we cut to a wide shot of their house, which is another cute little miniature with a giant dead fish on the lawn and a bone tree. We then see this picture as liquid washes over it, and the man explains as a kid his sister was popular and treated well because of her beauty, while he was shunned due to his own perceived ugliness. How he hated her and now he loves her. Loves her for the gifts she holds and what she can do. He says he wants to f*** her but can't stop thinking about hurting her, so that's a bit of an issue as the liquid starts to melt and distort the picture, deforming it. He then describes how wonderful it was to watch her body change to accommodate the new baby, how it adapted, the pain and the sacrifice his sister made for it. He also talks about how unfair it is that men would simply deliver the seed while women have to go through periods and all that. It made him respect her but also gave him nightmares. Get a grip, mate. You ain't surfing the crimson wave. Lame. We then cut to a dream he had about caressing his sister's naked form in bed. Which is gross, but you can't deny it. His sister's pretty hot. Find a way to make this funny and not creepy. Okay. His sister's so hot I'd still f*** her even if she was my dead grandma. Oh, and before I get any complaints, not the grandma that just died, the grandma that died years ago. Okay? Does that make it better? Anyway, this goes on for a while with the brother emotionlessly rubbing his hands all over her until he moves his hand under her bum and realizes she sat in some sort of jam pie, which freaks him the f*** out. Which again, come on mate, get some iron in your diet if you know what I mean. Mother hen is laying her special red eggs. Breakfast is cervixed. The brother tries to block the blood, but it seems like there's an Olaf Ittenbach movie going on inside her, so that small square of fabric doesn't do much. The brother carries on trying to stop the bleeding, but the sister has a flow heavier than LJ that lethal junkie, so instead the nightmare just cuts to black.
The blood never stopped, and neither did her pain.
The brother explains how much of an effect this dream had on him, blaming his odd repulsion for his sister and women in general on it. We zoom in on the red, then get a shot of my arsehole after a lambadras, which is just lovely. He describes becoming more and more determined to enact this plan of his when we cut to the sister chilling in the dark and lighting up a smoke, which can't be good for the baby. We then get this interesting moment as over the radio whispers from both brother and sister can be heard.
People like you always die alone. Always die alone. He looks at me. He's the only one that loves me.
Suggesting that the sister is maybe not as unaware of her brother's obsession as I originally thought. They stare at each other as she enters the dungeon for another round of pasta cream pie as we cut to the sister seemingly having thoughts about getting railed by her brother. She begins to cry as the bad thoughts creep in until eventually she calms down. Cut to the pair on the bed as the brother explains he's been looking after his sister, caring for her as the pregnancy progresses. He feeds her porridge. Normal porridge, not love porridge. And she smiles, appreciating his... What do you mean yours doesn't look like porridge? And she smiles, appreciating his care, which of course the brother can't help but interpret as mildly sexual. We then cut to him alone as he wonders if she'd smile if she knew what was about to happen, if she knew what he was going to do to her. No, probably not, mate. He says it's almost time and we see him again watching her sleep as he describes continuing to care for her, the sister and the baby becoming idols of warm flesh in his mind. He does his homework, making sure he knows what to do when she gives birth, just enough to make sure she thinks everything is normal, that she's safe. Cut to the sister giving birth as the brother delivers the baby, all while narrating the events with the same emotional detachment as before. He says he's going to make a mockery of the birthing process, destroy it with passion and intensity. In this moment, we also see a prosthetic vagina dilated to the point of giving birth, and that just might be the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. Look at that thing! Look at it! All jokes aside though, what you women do is truly a miracle. If I take a big enough my arsehole rips like wet tissue paper and I'm out for the day. Respect. The brother continues to be amazed by what's going on as the baby pushes out of her in an effect that's pretty amazing. And that's when the brother pulls out a box cutter and the baby's as the mum can only sit and watch in horror. This brother's a real jerk. He pulls the baby up as a fountain sprays out of her and lifts it up above her face, letting all the various liquids shower her as she screams.
Now, indeed, as I've always believed, I know what the true face of terror is.
Jesus Christ! He then pops the umbilical cord back in her, leaving the end poking out like a little penis, which he says makes him laugh, but he's not sure. We then see a shot of mother and child together on the bed, laying there, both finally at rest. The brother takes a seat and smiles at his art piece, for once in his life feeling content. Cut to the child in a cupboard, which he calls an altar over the sink, the body wrapped in pretty papers and string. He says he finds it beautiful in its own way. We then see him on the bed with his dead sister, who he says he stays with for every second of his remaining life, clothing and bathing her, sleeping next to her, among other things.
Only once did I try to make love to it, and then as I slid myself into her putrefying cleft, it was so cold and unpleasant. I realized then that such an act was never meant to be for me.
Putrefying Cleft is a sick band name. Look out for the collaboration between me and Disinterested Handjob coming soon. He then cries, realizing he'll never have that connection with anyone, that he'll always be around death and he's never gonna properly get his end away. Well, that was horrific. Thank God the next shot's hilarious. Cut to shots of the beautiful countryside as we see this hand caressing the ground. The sky turns red a couple times and we then cut to a bunch of naked people rolling around on the floor. This woman rubs grass on her pubes as this fella rips a hole open, causing it to bleed. He then rubs blood on his face and body before moving up and literally the floor, which is just awesome. We see some barbed wire when this woman goes for a stroll, breaks off a small branch and watches the tree bleed as this woman eats mud. This woman sucks off a pine cone or something, I don't know what that is, as blood shoots out of that too, and we cut to my favourite shot of the movie. A bloke sucking off a woman's strap-on knife as he bleeds profusely from his mouth. Bravo, mate. Bravo. The sun then starts to set on these antics when the short comes to an end. And way too soon if you ask me. I could have watched that for hours. The next short begins with the cigarette getting sparked as we see this fella enjoying himself a coffee. He looks around the room, then checks his watch as the sound of the other patrons around him gets louder before he's able to tune them out again. He then pops on his jacket, nicks some napkins and leaves as we cut to a montage of the man heading to the office set to rock music for some reason. We see him cut his finger on some cash and bleed on the Queen's face before getting to the office and shoving this document in the receptionist's face. He does some work then heads home when the film cuts to first the city, then the earth as a VHS tape starts up. Cut to a close-up of a ham sandwich as we see the man is watching a very spicy video. We watch for a while as he juices the tuna before eventually popping all over himself. Then, just like the brother, he looks at the leavings on his hand before wiping it on a coin and throwing it at the TV. Because, I don't know, capitalism bad, I guess? Also, fun fact, I remember in the original review skipping over any mention of whatsoever because I was just like, gross, who the wants to hear about that? How the tables have turned. 92 reviews later, and sometimes I do worry I talk about a little bit too much. I blame society. Long-time viewers may have thought I was going to blame someone else there, but he's dead, so... Cut to some time later as the TV plays Candle Cove and the man sleeps in bed. We see multiple shots of a red tree outside when we're transported inside the man's mind, into his nightmares. Here a random glove uses hooks on the man's Johnson as he screams. Multiple hooks are applied until we get to see his masterpiece. The man's penis has been turned into a Cenobite. It looks like he had sex with a blender. Why? I just want to know why! Why is it skinless? Why is there a woman f***ing him off? Why is he blood? We then see this colourful doppelganger enter the room. The doppelganger tells the man they are his rights. They are inside him and they're taking over to destroy the left half. The man's penis continues to look like it held a lit firework for too long as his doppelganger covers his eyes for a second, showing no emotion at all. He does the same thing again as I get the sudden hankering for beef jerky when suddenly he hasn't got any eyes. And then all the skin rips off of the man's love truncheon and the woman goes to town. No, forget the vagina. That is truly the most awful thing that I've ever seen. But still though, imagine the orgasm. The doppelganger rips off the man's crucifix necklace and teases him for wearing it out of fear, for respectability. He then melts it down and grabs a needle to suck it all up.
Now your life will only be one long dream in color.
The man has a fit, showing all sorts of up images when we start spinning around outside a church and find the man himself, Jesus Christ. Unfortunately not played by Ron Atkins. Inside the church, we see whatever the is going on here when Jesus is grabbed and dragged inside by a bunch of women. We see maggots in a rose when he's dumped on the ground and the women begin to eat Christ alive. Which is just so f***ing hot. This woman tongues his kneecap for a bit when another cuts a huge chunk out of his chest and chows down. She then shoves the flesh in his mouth and p***s in his wounds, which again is so f***ing hot. Finally, she reaches into his body, pulls his guts out and rubs them against her vagina as the camera spins around her. Cut to this woman sleeping and getting felt up by the leather-gloved doppelganger, presumably as Jesus, now bloodless, gets the same treatment. He opens his eyes and everything seems to be okay. Oh, not the eyes! Oh, not the arse! Go back to the eyes! Go back to the eyes! We see a shot of Christ on the cross, then the buggy brain before returning to the doppelganger and the sleeping. Cut to the bathing in a river which must have been cold as f***. He seems to be living his best life, which after everything he's been through is a blessing. This doesn't last, however, as the filter turns red and we are presented with this monstrosity. The end! Well, what the f***? What the f***ing f***? Subconscious Cruelty was and still is the perfect movie for this channel, the foundation from which the next 4 years of my life were built on. It's an art house w***a-thon packed with disturbing imagery, and the thing that upsets me the most is that there aren't more movies like this. How about a sequel, Karim? Hey, cheeky little sequel for Jonjo? Now, this movie is of course split up into a bunch of separate stories, so we're gonna go through them one by one, starting with the brother. Jesus f***. This one was dark, and I was surprised to see it takes up the bulk of the movie's runtime. The pacing is slow and purposeful as the brother builds up to whatever it is that he's planning. Then when it's revealed, it's about as horrible as you could ever imagine. I also love the brother's measured narration, never losing control even in the face of what he was about to do to his sister. Then, after all the horror, ending the film on him showing such a small amount of emotion as the single tear falls down his face was just perfection. Next is the people in the field, and this one is just so funny to me. This is peak art house and the type of thing people picture when referring to the subgenre. There's not really much more to say than that. I loved it, but probably not for the intended reasons. Then we have the businessman, and this one is the most hard to pin down for me. Businessman addicted to money, and bleeds on cash and gets his penis torn to shreds. The two sides of his brain are at war, and after we see Jesus get eaten alive, he returns to nature. Knows. Originally, I saw the final image of the Thing monster as the failed result of his left and right brain trying to pull themselves apart, but nowadays I'm not sure. I'm really not sure what to think about it at all, honestly, and that's fine with me. I loved it. In terms of the cast, you gotta commend their fearlessness. I know it's just a bunch of arty types sacrificing their inhibitions in the pursuit of the filmmaker's vision, but they really do give it their all. Especially those in the field. They were f***ing awesome. The brother is the standout as he actually gets to play a character with a story, and the business is also great as both the sinister doppelganger and penis torture victim. It's just a lot of great stuff from everyone and really shows the dedication to performance the director was able to command. Onto the gore, and good lord, this film is downright nasty at times and mostly executed well. Thankfully, the baby looks fake as f***, but that knife sucking and the destroyed Cenobite penis are really super horrible. Then there's the desecration of Jesus Henrietta Christ, and that looks surprisingly painful and graphic. For an independent art house movie with a clear artistic message, you'd think this kind of brutality would be beneath the filmmaker, but thankfully for us, it's actually the point. Great stuff. Presentation-wise, this is a really well put together movie. Shot on film, it retains that lovely grain and gritty, almost 90s feel and is packed with gorgeous multicolored lighting throughout. Editing and sound are all on point, and the score is also very good, with the only part really standing out as weird being that Rocky type thing they play during the office work montage. I also think it's all shot beautifully, especially that first shot with some parts of it coming off like a painting. I loved it all. In the end, Subconscious Cruelty is not only as good as I remember, but maybe better. It's a fun, horrific, sometimes silly little art house movie that is not only made extremely well, but still manages to cause a reaction even after all these years. I don't see it being very many people's cup of tea, but for me, I bloody love it. If you somehow still haven't had the chance to see this one, I highly recommend it over a bottle of wine with your weirdest friend. So that was my review for Subconscious Cruelty. What do you lot think? Even after all this time, after seeing so many up movie, Subconscious Cruelty still has an effect on me, so I guess in that regard it's a success. I really couldn't have picked a better movie to start this journey off with. And again, I'd completely forgotten about the Cenobite penis. That thing looked juicy, and not in a good way. Speaking of which, if you want to see our Lord and Saviour Jesus Christ get a stick shoved up his ass completely uncut and early, head over to patreon.com/Jonjo Lyons. We got the uncut reviews, Patreon exclusive reviews, Slasher comic breakdowns and the Discord. And all that can be yours for as little as $2 a month. You can pledge more, I really appreciate it, but instead go over to the Indiegogo for my short film Better Anything and contribute there. We are so close to covering the budget, so please, anything you can do to help is super appreciated. So that's it for another week. Like the video, leave a comment and click subscribe if you haven't already. My name's Jonjo Lyons, and I wonder how I used to sign these off. Hey, old Jonjo, take us out.
In the meantime, like, share, subscribe. My name is Jonjo Lyons. Stay frosty.
Funny. Good stuff. Better Anything.